And ready? We are three, two, one. We are recording.
Yeah,
Bub
it's
and Pop
happening.
podcast episode three. Tres. How are you?
Good. How's it going over in your neck of the woods?
The weather's mild. I understand it's hot where you are.
99 degrees, according to
Wow.
what I just checked on
So
October 2nd.
LA is still in fuego.
Yep.
Fires are still raging.
Yeah, it looks like the opening to Terminator 2, right when the bomb goes off.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
bad. That was bad. Everybody on the swing set got fried.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to everybody that wants to find out what's going on in the world of Bub and Pop. We start out our first segment with the bad movie of the week, which actually turns out to be a bad series of the week. I had a list of things I was going to do, and then I started watching Ratched, which just shot to the top of the list after suffering through four episodes of it. I actually thought after the first episode it was interesting because the production was just it was great. It was sort of like Shawshank Redemption meets Double Indemnity. It like had all that, and then I realized after four episodes that they weren't really going anywhere with it. They were just cramming more production and loud music and characters down my throat that were overdressed and over the whole use of color thing, which I know is a big deal now in some of the media world is we use colors to represent stuff. But it was so overdone, it's over fried to the point that we stopped watching it. And yeah, just stop dead in my tracks. I've got other things to do. So who's the guy that does that show?
Ryan Murphy, he's the guy the first thing he did that got any real traction was American Horror Story, which the first few seasons are pretty awesome, but I fell off that show pretty quickly. And then he did American Crime Story. Um, so far, they've done OJ and Versace, which I like both of them. But no, it's gotten to this point where now he's like the white Tyler Perry, like the gay white Tyler Perry, where it's just there's a new show with his name on it. Like every 10 minutes, it seems like there's an advertisement for a new
Yeah.
Ryan Murphy show. And this to me is just like what he's been doing with his other shows, where I've got no problem with it. Plenty of people do this, like Paul Thomas Anderson and a litany of other people of like casting the same people in your movies, but there's just no more variety with him. It's like Sarah Paulson is doing the same sort of soft-spoken, demure, right? Like character. And the whole nurse thing, I feel like he's done this before. I don't know. It's just like I don't know. He just keeps recycling his. I haven't watched it, but I don't care to. Just looks like the same Ryan Murphy shit all over again.
Well, okay. Well, that wraps that segment up. Don't need to watch it. It's bad. They're just like it's if you what was the music like like
Are
in
you
the
covering your microphone?
oh, you know what? I am. Did I pan out?
Yeah, your voice isn't as loud as it was.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Well, this
still not great, but
this is the best start to a podcast ever.
well,
But
no, and I feel like we haven't reviewed anything that we've liked that we can really sink our teeth into. I feel like everything we've watched, like, yeah, that sucked. All right, what's next?
well,
Shia hadn't,
what do you
yeah.
see that you like?
Shia LaBeouf doing they've been doing like those live reads over Zoom of like old movies, and they did. Have you heard about this? This
No.
was a couple weeks ago, but they did Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Sean Penn, like they get a gaggle of celebrities together to read the whole movie through, and they're usually sitting there in front of their computer, just kind of doing the lines and having fun doing it. But Shia went method acting, and because he played Spicoli, and the minute they like Google it when you're done, they've got some clips online. Shia's got glasses on. He's in his truck in his garage, and he's just ripping a fat joint like, and it's no prop. That thing's real. His eyes are just glazed over, and he went full Spicoli. And you have Brad Pitt on there and Sean Penn laughing their asses off because Shia's just giving it his all, and it's entertaining as heck. It was so entertaining.
He's my new favorite guy. I mean, well, Matthew Rise, but Shia, that guy is he's fun to
He's
watch.
Shia. He's Shia.
Fun to watch. I mean, he wasn't fun to watch, but then he was fun to watch, which is great. I think that's great. Yeah, there's a the Chris Rock um,
Fargo.
in a Fargo is interesting, but we'll have to see where they take it. You know, the here's my basic stress level, and it's because I'm ADD or something. You know, I was as a small child too much smog. But my problem is that when space abhors a vacuum. So if there's a series like Fargo and it signs up for 8 to 10 episodes or whatever, it's it's like they have to figure out how to fill those episodes. So there's too much. I'm old school. I want the beauty of The Godfather was is that within the first not even 15 minutes of that movie, every major character with the wedding scene was identified. You knew their name, and you knew a little bit about what motivated the character, and you knew a little bit about what problems might lie in front of the character because of their relationship to the other characters. Okay, Carlo, yeah, Godfather. Every single person in that script is introduced and identified, not casually, but very specifically within the first 15 minutes. I watched Fargo, and you've got a gaggle of characters in that thing, and it actually is an interesting concept, and I think it's funny, and the way they interject the Minnesota humor into that is really creative. The way they do that this time because it takes place in Kansas City. However, my beef is they took a whole hour episode to introduce me to the characters, and it went on and on and on and on and on and on and on because they had this way of doing it. And I'm not a writer, and I'm not you. I appreciate anybody that can write and get it on the boards. That's an amazing feat. It takes a lot of intelligence to do that. But I also look at things as the standpoint of a consumer, and as you know, my time to me is something that you're taking from me if I choose to watch your show and pay money for it. So when you waste my time, like like in Heat when he gets mad at the guy and he says you're wasting my time. I get tired when you stretch out an episode to an hour that should have been less, or you do what I call the filler episodes when you've gotten to six and you don't know what to do because you haven't written enough material to cover 10 hours of production. So now we're going into dream sequences and all this other stuff, and we'll take a sharp left turn here and go back into something. It can be done, and sometimes it's done well, but most of the time to me it's being driven by the amount of episodes they signed up for, which controls the money, controls the schedule and everything else, which bugs me because I get mad. You've just taken an hour of my time because you didn't know what else to do, and you have to fill your space in order to get your money, but you're taking my money to do that. So it's a little snotty attitude, but you follow what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's been happening for a while. I think we've talked about this before about how just because they have a season of something, it has to be 8 or 10 episodes long,
Yeah.
with episodes clocking in anywhere between like 45 minutes to a full hour. But I watched recently, and it took me a minute to do it. I did it after the fact, after it was first streaming. Was a Haunting of Hill House, and I liked it a lot. Like again, it was one of those things where it was um, the whole thing was about, you know, uh, this family trying to cope 30 years after a tragedy that occurred in this
Oh
house.
yeah, yeah.
And it was really interesting. And you bought every single member of that family being a family. And, you have the one brother who's a drug addict and the other one who's, a writer who, there's just everyone, went into professions that, were all things they embarked on as a way to cope with this tragedy. But damn it, there was like 2 or 3 episodes where I'm like, this is boring, and they're having the same argument about the same exact thing they did before. We understand that this is a point of tension between them, but how long are we going to just continue to establish that that is the thing they need to get over, or deal with, or whatever? But yeah, I'm just yes-anding what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, I always admire the fact that people that do this business that you're in it takes a lot to generate content. It takes a lot, and just in the world that I live in with my podcasts that I'm part of and my little small consulting firm that helps
Mhm.
people with podcasts and websites. Engageably.com. The
Yeah.
the the generation of content is a very difficult thing, and it's hard to do, and I understand people that do it well. So the last thing I want to do is sit there and go, oh, these guys are, but you're also taking my time. It's like Terrence Winter and the Sopranos crew. and now you ended up with the Boardwalk Empire, and then there was other series that have come off of that, and it's like I can tell you when they just call it jumping the shark, but I can tell you when the shark gets jumped way too early in these things now, and
Well, this is a very American thing with entertainment and
well,
the arts and all that. And this has always been a problem where almost every show that was ever popular, with the exception of a few that were consistent pretty much from beginning to end, with maybe a few like lulls like here and there, but is having shows go on for like 8 seasons, 10 seasons. And I mean, there's ones that stand out that they were always funny from start to finish, like Seinfeld or like Cheers, Frasier, stuff like that. Like I Love Lucy, I think probably is like among the first shows that really establish how you can like really get a lot of mileage out of something. Um, but no, yeah, Sopranos did that. Every show's done that. I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but the past 2 seasons, I'm like, what are we doing now? This is like a weird impression of the show that it used to be, or it got too political, or their egos got way too big, or something like that. I don't know, but American television shows and franchises tend to overstay their welcome, and I think that's just because it's just the American thing is just like overindulgence on something. It's like from food to our pop culture. And that's why I complain a lot about like superhero movies and stuff like that. While they have their merits, and I'm not going to go full Scorsese or Nolan on them and talk about how there's no, they try and sugarcoat, their criticisms of it, but in reality, they just bash on it. There's a lot of stuff I like, but no, our culture, we're obsessed with constantly eating dessert without balancing out our meals, and that includes like the brain food that we indulge in. So
yeah. No, I get it. I just I don't like to sit down and spend an hour and then walk away from it feeling like I got ripped off. But that's me. I'm a snot hole. Um, well, speaking of snot holes, I guess we can segue into our second podcast topic, which is what in the hell is going on? And just when you thought all the water had drained out of the swimming pool, somebody has gotten COVID and is on whatever the sequester quarantine for 2 weeks, and it who um, happens to be the guy who wouldn't wear a mask and encouraged people not to wear a mask. So what irony is there in that, right? So
some people are saying that it's a lie, that he's lying. I mean,
it's
everyone on
hard.
the internet
I
and
don't.
everyone on the internet goes ballistic now
Yeah,
the second something happens. But
it's hard not to. It's hard to think that that would be possible. But in an age and day where every time you think again that you've seen it, you've seen, well, we never saw this before. It manages to rise to the surface. I have a
I
great
mean,
story.
if he I mean, I think he does have it. I hate to say I think, but I would feel like with his MO, if he were to get it, he'd want to lie about it to continue to prop up that whole
Yeah.
rhetoric he's been putting out there. It's like overreaction. We can have rallies. We can do whatever. I'm invincible. I'm untouchable. I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message. But I
Well,
don't know. But he's got it
he
apparently.
dominated. He continued, and I don't think the guy looks at it. Let's say he's got it and it's legit. I don't think he looks at it in the attitude that it's a bad thing because it keeps the news cycle focused on him because that's how he's managed to do all this. And it's interesting. We talk about news cycle, and I think we talked a couple of podcasts ago about Cardi B had WAP, and it literally lasted like less than a week. It was like 2 or 3 days, and then it was old news. Well, here you've got the debates and this meltdown of a debate that happened on Tuesday night, which was if you watched it, it was like watching a it was like watching a chain reaction car accident, right? You see boom, boom, then you go, oh, okay, well, it's over. No, it's not. Here comes another car, and boom. And then you're thinking to yourself, wow, that was utterly the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in presidential debates and watching them since, the 60s. Then 2 days later, no one's talking about the debates anymore because now it's, well, he's on COVID. Will they have a debate? Well, we don't even know, blah, 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 blah. It's like, here we go again on the news cycle being so condensed that even I don't know what's going to happen if a real important news story ever comes out. Is it just going to get lost in this machine that's been created of news? Because so he's got COVID-19. What does that mean? Well, he's in the residency of the White House, and he's able to tweet out, and he's watching television, and he's talking to his aides, and he's eating
He's
McDonald's.
binging Ratched on Netflix on the side.
He's been whatever he's doing, or he's watching
Yeah.
Fox News, and he called into Sean Hannity last night, and I'm going, what difference is that than what he's been doing for the past 4 years? Nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So now we're sitting there trying to figure out what this means, and then I was talking to Ben Rodriguez earlier. I think he was absolutely right. That now CNN has to have the presidential expert come on to talk about what happens when the president gets sick. Because Reagan got shot, and then there was a time when somebody went in for a colonoscopy, and they swore in, Dan Quayle or something, which was there, and you're like going, really? So now she's been on since last night. She's their presidential security correspondent, and she is casting this thing, and I'm like, well, I can get mad at her, but I realize she's been waiting for this opportunity her whole life. She's probably got a master's degree from Georgetown, and her thesis was what happens when the president gets, intubated and can't speak. So now she's just fluttering with stuff all over the place about this could be the worst national security disaster of all time. I'm like, people didn't know that Woodrow Wilson had a stroke during World War I, and his wife was basically running the White House. And it's like we have turned everything into such a news nugget that even when it's important, it doesn't last more than a day. And even when it's something as culturally shocking as Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion's WAP, it doesn't last more than a day now. When somebody came out, if you came out with a really controversial kill the cops, my boy Ice-T, people talked about that for weeks. Now, who's talking about Cardi B? Nobody.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I think as human beings, we become the complete rats in the maze, and we just run around, we run around in circles trying to figure out what's going on. But homeboy's in the White House with COVID, and isn't that ironic? So
like Alanis Morissette said.
Yeah, but I would just like to see all of them get sick, especially the Kushner and the other guy, the Nazi guy, Stephen Miller.
Oh,
He's
Bannon?
great.
Wait, no, I'm thinking of someone else. Oh, wait, the guy that just was that his campaign manager, the one that
Oh no, that's a whole nother story.
beating the shit out of his wife or whatever?
No, he apparently, the word is what happened was that he apparently spent like $200 million of campaign funds on media buys for the Super Bowl and other stuff because Trump didn't want to get outspent by Bloomberg. And it turns into this just masquerade of strategy that really was just him out spending money. But the upshot is that he funneled $120 million to his consulting firm, this Pascal.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then they fired him. And so he went home, and who knows what kind of rhetoric that Trump's pumped up into him, or as people, I'm gonna have you put in prison or whatever. And the guy flipped out.
Yeah, he threw back a few, and then
yeah. So anyhow, that's the world we live in. It's being run by people who are
well, speaking of news you didn't hear about, Rick Moranis got punched in the face by some dude on the sidewalk in New York outside of his apartment.
For what?
The guy, no, it was just some random dude walked by as Rick Moranis was walking out, and he just clocked Rick Moranis, and he fell and hit his head. He's fine though.
Oh yeah. Man, I'm sorry about that. Rick Moranis is one of the great ones.
Yeah, right as he's starting, he did a commercial
recently. Probably got punched in the face.
Yeah, he did a commercial recently with Ryan Reynolds, right?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, it was nice to see Rick Moranis though coming out. Yeah.
It was because it's Canadian. Yeah. I don't hear about Canadian guys. They're not funny. Who's
funny? I meant to show you. There's a
funny.
Second City video of Rick Moranis as Woody Allen in Taxi Driver. Have you seen that?
No, I'm sure I did today. But
I'll send it to you. It's only like 20 seconds long. Again, when they knew how to, just inject a quick sketch into something without it being 8 or 10 minutes long. But it's really funny. And someone put a comment on there, and it's so true. And they're like, "Is there any character he can't play?"
All right, switching to our final topic for the day: favorite Maggie moments.
Yeah, you always have to end it with something light, which is why, I told you that news story about the parrots at that zoo in London mouthing off to people because their previous owners.
Our famous Maggie story today. Go ahead and tell that, and we're going to close on that one.
Well, apparently, and I heard this it was the Daily Show. They had to remove. There was some kind of breed of parrot, like a gray parrot or something like that got donated, like 6 of them or something, to a zoo in London. And then I guess that the birds whoever that they were quarantining with were overhearing shouting matches and every sort of colorful curse word there was, and started repeating them to the guests at the zoo, who got pissed off and started shouting back at the birds. So it's the UK, it's London. So I'm sure you had a parrot calling a woman a cunt, and she's probably yelling it right back at the parrot.
That's awesome. All right, dude. Well, we
All
spared
right.
Maggie a famous Maggie moment today, but this was our placeholder podcast because we had a bigger one planned. But when Trump got COVID, we all flipped out.
Yep.
So, and that and Ratcheted, we just didn't have the gas to put together a script today. So, thanks for putting up with our freeform. We'll see you soon on the Bub and Pop podcast.
All right.
Peace.
Later.